back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys! So I am here today to review two books, both of which I really enjoyed, one of which is a standalone. And the standalone is one of my new all-time favourite books, so I'm really excited to tell you guys about these. So let's get started. So I'm going to talk first about the book that ends a series, because I think that's a nice way to begin. And that is this one, King of Assassins by R.J. Barker. Now, I have really enjoyed the previous two books in this series, so I was very hopeful going into this that I was going to love this as well. And I definitely really enjoyed it, and I'm very much happy with the ending. I feel like this book is a bit darker in tone, so once again we're following our main character from the first two books, who is called Girton Clubfoot. He is a character that I really enjoy because we have seen him now from childhood, growing up into an adult and someone who has to really make the harsh decisions in this world. He is an assassin, he's been in training for many years, and in the previous book he kind of took over as an actual assassin rather than an apprentice, and in this one we see him as he is the king's right-hand man. He is the jester, he is someone that the king can turn to whenever he needs something quiet done, and someone that a lot of people are fearful of, but also he's one of those strange accessories where he's not quite scary, but he's also someone that people mock. He's got a club foot, and so that is something that a lot of people try and ridicule him for and make fun of him for, and generally he is someone that I really enjoy reading about. He's an interesting, complex character, I think, and that's what I like about him. And not only is he a complex character, but some of the people who are surrounding him in the plot, like Merila Khan, who is his kind of, I would say, trainer or teacher. She's also a very complex character and someone that I like reading about, and the king is also quite a complex character, so they're all people who have quite a lot of emotions, quite a lot of interesting ideas about how the world should be run. In this book we're following Rufra the king, and we're following through Girton's eyes as they go on an adventure to try and make Rufra the king of not only the land he already rules over, but also basically the whole land. I think it's called the High King. So they're trying to make him the High King because they believe that he will be the best ruler, and they do not think the people who are currently vying to become High King will be good rulers. He doesn't really want to take the throne. Girton's unsure about whether it's a wise move for him, and generally there's a lot of trepidation as they head towards this new end goal, but it is something they are doing, and it is the start of the story. So, of course, whilst we are there are lots of other things going on behind the scenes. We have the political turmoil and negotiations that are going on. We have people who are trying to subjugate and take over people who are working on the sly behind the scenes. We believe there is a king who died, the old High King, who may still be alive. There's conspiracies and whispering, and there's a lot for Girton, our main character, to uncover. So that is the general gist of the book, and again, as I said before, I do believe this is a darker storyline than some of the others we have previously followed Girton on. I do think the ending of this book really wrapped up the series very satisfactorily and is something that I really enjoyed. It's kind of like a bittersweet ending, I'd say, and it's something where I feel like a lot of questions were answered, but I also feel like there could have been so much more, but obviously it's the end of the series, so there's probably not going to be, possibly more in the world, but possibly not with the same characters. And I definitely feel like it was a strong end to the series. It certainly felt like its own adventure. Obviously you need the grounding of the first two, but it still feels like it's mainly its own adventure, and I really like that about this. So I ended up giving this a very solid 4 out of 5 stars, and of course I thoroughly recommend not just this, the whole series. So that is that. Now on to another book that I wanted to talk about, which is a standalone, and I actually audiobooked this, so I'll put a picture up. It is called Guns of Dawn, and it's by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Honestly, I am shocked by how much I loved this. It is a standalone book. It's one by an author who I've heard of a lot. I've met at conventions. He's very nice. I'd never read anything by him before this, so it was my first Adrian Tchaikovsky book, and it's one that I picked up mainly because Emma Newman is the narrator of the audiobook, and I love Emma Newman. I think she's great at narrating. So she recommended it when I recently went to a book event where she was there, and she said that she'd done the audiobook and she really loved the story, and that doing the audiobook kind of really made her emote and understand the character more than she had when she was reading. So of course, when Emma Newman tells you to buy a book, you go and buy that book if you're me. And that's what I did, and I picked it up and I loved it, and I so desperately want to buy a physical edition now because it needs to go on my shelf. This is a story which takes a lot of influence from things like the First and Second World War. So it is very war based, as you probably have guessed from the title. We're following a young family, mainly one main character from that family who is called Emily, and she is a young noblewoman. She lives with her two sisters, and they kind of try and uphold the family name, which was once very grand and is now falling slightly into disrepair. We're set in a land where the two monarchies have just gone to war because one of the monarchies, the king, was overthrown, it's believed, and they don't really know what's happened in the other monarchy. They want to go and take power back, though, because they believe everyone's kind of dissolved into lawlessness. So a war begins, and we follow Emily as she not only has to say goodbye to her younger brother who goes off to fight in the war, but later on she actually enlists in the war herself. And I do not like reading about war. I find it to be something that I just don't usually connect with. I find it quite dull or tedious, and it's not something personally that I enjoy most of the time. However, with that being said, I did really enjoy this story, and I think that having the perspective of a female main character who goes to war, someone who is very much not a soldier, not someone who already knows how to act in these situations, not someone who's trained properly, not someone who you can't connect with if you haven't ever been through sort of army training. She was just a typical young woman, obviously, of the time. She's just someone you can connect with. She's a character who feels incredibly well fleshed out, someone that I could certainly see as a real life person rather than just a character in a book who does what she's expected to do and that's it. She's actually quite unpredictable at times. She makes some rash but interesting decisions that keep the plot quite exciting throughout, and I really found that I connected with her right from the very start. So I definitely think she's someone who is interesting to read about from the point of view of, and someone that I really liked, so that was good. So in general, her connecting with me was something that probably was a major part of why I love this book. But the idea of how Adrian Tchaikovsky has managed to weave not only some sort of, I don't know, it's almost a Wild Western at the start where we have these bandits who are just evil bandits who go around trying to like do nasty things, and they have some sort of rivalry with the family. So we've got this sort of sub-story going on at the start where there's these bandits and they're trying to attack the family, and then later on it becomes all about this war. And the war, honestly, I've never read a book that's about war and battles where I've felt genuine concern, unless it's a non-fiction, because obviously they're real, but like a fiction book to really make me concerned about the characters, to make me emotionally invest in their stories to the point where I'm going to be sad or upset if they do die, was really, it's something new, it's something I hadn't had before, and I really enjoyed seeing it in this book where Adrian Tchaikovsky just manages to pull you deeper and deeper into the story, the emotional complexity of characters who are going into war. They're completely untrained. They're people who are shell-shocked coming back from the front, people who don't know how to load a gun even. It's getting dire, and the whole situation is very dark. But not grimdark, it's just realistically dark. It's something that is realistic throughout. I don't know if I'm just rambling now, but honestly, I loved it, and I feel like I can't do it justice because without having read many other books like this that are as good at explaining what wartime may be like, I feel like I don't have a personal connection to war because I've not been through it. I don't really know anyone in my family who has, because they're all kind of gone now. So yeah, I don't feel like I know what it is, and yet I feel like I have some perception from things like documentaries where I've watched survivors of war talking about their experiences, and this book is the closest book I've ever come to where it feels almost non-fiction. It feels almost like he has talked to survivors. He has done his research about what it is like in these conditions, what it would be like on the battlefield, and I just feel like it's so realistic that I loved it. The main setting of most of the book is on the marshlands, where Emily and the other people that she's with, the other soldiers, are basically the last defence. There's two main defences going on. So we have the marshlands, and then we have sort of the battle at sea, and also the city base. And it's believed that the marshlands, there's not much hope of them holding out. But if they don't, then the invaders are going to come into the rest of the land and probably overwhelm them. So they are the last hope of the defence system, and they have to do everything they possibly can to defend the land, because if they don't, they're going to be overrun. So we see a lot of creative, innovative ideas coming through. We see a lot of help from neighbouring locals, and we see that the brutality and the determination and the resilience of soldiers just fighting for what they believe in and doing everything they can, putting their whole heart and souls into it because they believe they're protecting the people they love about, the things they stand for. And the passion was great. It's so convincing, and I think that is honestly why I absolutely loved it. It just felt really convincing, which is great. There is magic in this world, so it's not entirely like the World Wars. We actually have magic in the form of warlocks, so they are appointed by the king. They are sort of magically blessed by his power, and then they have the magic to basically go into battle and defend the lines. However, when we're following Emily, she does meet some warlocks, but there are not many on the marshland front. Most of them are over on the other front, and a lot of them have died over the time of the battle, because the war, by the time she joins up even, has been going for a long time. Emily's nature was definitely what kept me hooked in throughout. She's commanding, she's dominant, she's someone who can be very compassionate and caring, and I felt like the whole way through I had a really fiery sort of willingness and determination for her to succeed. I wanted her to win. I was rooting for her throughout. On the whole, it's just brilliant. It was set in a sort of alternate world where the Industrial Revolution is kind of just about to begin, I suppose, and it very much takes influence from real world wars, as I've said. Even if you don't usually read wartime stories, or it's something that doesn't usually appeal to you, I would still recommend this, because as I say, it's not something that usually appeals to me. It is something I think was done brilliantly in this book, absolutely brilliantly, and I will certainly be picking up more of Adrian Tchaikovsky's work. I do already own Children of Time by him, and I have some others that I definitely want to get to now, so do let me know where to start with him if you've got other recommendations. I know he's got quite a backlog of stuff, but honestly I loved this book, and I was so sad that it was a standalone, but it also felt very fitting, and I think he wrapped everything up really, really nicely in this as well. So thoroughly recommend it, and I can't wait to read some more of his stuff. From me, I gave it 5 stars. So those are my reviews of those 2 books. I'd love to hear your thoughts on both if you've read either, or whether you'll be picking them up. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.